Hey guys, Chris from Provo Beast Audio Installation, and in today's video we're doing an amplifier and subwoofer install in this 2004 Ford F150. Now in this install we're going to show you how to integrate this amp and sub to an existing aftermarket radio. Let's get started. Now a couple of things to note. First and foremost, this F-150 is the extended cab. If you have any other cab designs, the technique of what we're doing is still applicable, and the parts that we're using are good for basically any trim level F-150. With all that being said, let's head to the bench to show you the parts that we're going to need for the install. Alright, so here at the bench now, the parts that we're using in today's install, first and foremost is the amp and sub combo that we're looking to install. It's this Rockford Fosgate 8-inch powered subwoofer. The nice thing is this enclosure comes with the box, the sub, and a built-in amplifier all in one piece, and Rockford rates it for about 300 watts RMS. Now this is the P300-8P. Again, 8-inch. They make these all the way up to 12 inches, but the reason why we went with this one specifically is it fits great underneath the rear back seat. Since we have the extended cab, there's not a ton of space for an amp, sub, and box. Being that this is an all-in-one piece, it actually fits really well. It's ported on the left-hand side and should give us plenty of bump for the space that it takes up. Now, wiring-wise, to support this amplified powered enclosure, we're going with an 8-gauge oxygen-free copper kit. This is a Scar Audio amplifier wiring kit. Comes with basically everything that we need for the install, considering we already have an aftermarket radio. As mentioned before, we can link all these parts in the description and any alternatives. First thing we're going to do is go test fit this enclosure in the truck, and then from there we're going to plan where we're going to pull our power wire. Now, being that we have the extended cab, there's not a lot of space back here, and the seats do pivot up, but that's about it. That's all the space. This Rockford Fosgate, in our experience, is one of the best outputting powered enclosures for the size that it takes up, and it's going to fit kind of in this location. So it'll fit something like that, and with the seat still comes down and it fits right underneath there. That's, like I said, about the perfect size box. Now we'll find a way to secure this so it doesn't slide around here, but our terminals are on the inside, and from this specific cab truck, the battery is on the passenger side in the engine bay. So we're going to run our power wire that direction along the passenger side, and we'll do our signal wire and anything that connects to the radio, like the remote turn-on wire and bass knob cable, we're going to run on the driver's side along the kick panels. Here on the side of this subwoofer box, because the amplifier is already built in, it makes it super nice and easy. Rockford includes a quick disconnect. So if you have to take this box out, this simply disconnects for power, ground, and remote. And your RCA input connection can also disconnect, just like so. Also has a space for a bass knob and cable, which are included within the kit. And essentially here, you can disconnect everything and remove the box entirely. Now, other settings here, we have our gain up and down, we have our crossover, we'll set about 80 Hertz. Bass boost generally just introduces distortion, so we don't use that at all. Phase, whatever sounds the best, either 0 or 180 degrees. We usually keep it on 0. The last thing we want to talk about is the high-low input here. This essentially has a built-in line-out converter, and then on top of that, it also has an option to automatically turn on the amp for you on your behalf without running a remote turn-on wire if needed in your application. So we talked about using a line-out converter here on the bench, but this technology essentially is integrated all the way into this box already. So if you're going with this specific enclosure and you have the factory radio, technically you don't need a line-out converter. What you do is take this harness, you cut off the RCA ends, which expose your speaker wires, and then white generally is your left, gray is your right, and then you'd extend these wires with some more speaker wire with your amplifier wiring kit, and you tap into speaker wire, whether it be in the B pillar or back behind the radio, or a T-harness that we can offer on the channel. In our case, we're using the RCAs and remote turn on because our aftermarket radio provides those. Up underneath the hood, our battery is on the passenger side front corner. Now you could still pass your power wire through the driver's side and find a grommet there, but then you have to drape and find a way to cross over the engine with your power wire run. There is a grommet back behind this battery on the firewall. It's a little difficult to get to, but we'll run our wire through the firewall to the positive post on the battery. Now, our amplifier wiring kit comes with a fuse. You want it as close to the power post as possible, as it protects the rest of the run from that fuse and fuse holder all the way to the amplifier itself. Now back behind the battery here, we do have our main factory grommet. However, underneath it there is a grommet, a factory grommet that was unused that we pulled out. Now you can poke a hole and go through the grommet above it, but the one below it's made for accessories. There was nothing in it. We pulled the grommet out, and it's a perfect fit for our 8-gauge OFC wire. And we didn't even need to use our infamous little hanger trick to pull wire through the firewall, because it's a nice unused grommet that we can pass our own through. Now, we went ahead and just pushed it in there. We're going to go from the inside and start pulling our wire through from the cabin. All right, so with our power wire now run into the truck here, we want to run it underneath panels. And so this panel, being the extended cab, it's just one long panel. There's no B-pillar. So for us to pull this wire, we're going to pop off this one panel. Now, if you have a different cab design, your trim may be a little bit different, but all in all, it's still the same technique. So we have a panel trim popping tool. You can use a vinyl panel tool. It's just what you have available to you. Now I'm running this wire through the factory channel because it's small enough and there's access to pull this wire through here. Just depends on the gauge size of your power wire. So we pulled this wire through the channel here, and now at this point in time we're going to go back behind the seat, just work it on through to about the position where we're going to mount our subwoofer box. Alright, next here with our power wire run, we just got it up underneath the seat. The extended cab is a little difficult to work with the rear seats, as the top is bolted in, and it's really no axis back behind the seat in this generation. What we're going to do is there is a slit in the carpet here and a great little space where we can tap our own 10mm ground. At this point, it's a stronger location on the body, as it's the same location where the seat is bolted through. We'll clean up the paint and use a 10mm tap and use a lock washer, and that should be a good location for the type of amperage that we're pulling with this specific amplifier. Now once we do that, after we get power and ground taken care of, we'll run our RC's remote turn-on wire. We've already pulled off the driver's side, same process as before. We're going to pull our base knob wire and remote turn-on wire to the dash cavity area. We will also need to pull out the current aftermarket radio so we can make our connections there. Alright, so our ground's all done here. It's looking great. We cleaned up the paint with the wire brush and put a 10mm bolt and locking washer. This is also a good place if you want to add a bigger nut on the back side. You can easily do so, but that's a good location where it is serviceable if needed, and it's up underneath the carpet. Alright, so what we're doing is just kind of everything wired up here at the box. Now we'll connect our power and ground into this plug here shortly. Generally, we always wire our amplifier rack here at the bench before we take it to the car, but in this case, because it's all built in, there's only so much we could do at the bench, and it's easier to pull power and ground for this subwoofer box before we get it mounted, since it's an all-in-one piece. Now we went ahead and connected the RCA cables there. We had a little bit of heat shrink just so it doesn't pull apart. Base knob cable, got that connected. And here at the bench, we're also going to connect our remote turn-on wire. This is where a positive and negative is going to go, and it's indicated there. But we'll put our remote turn-on wire right there in the center. Now we always like to add ferrules and heat shrink to all our connections so the screw terminals just don't destroy the wire as it often does. So we can go ahead and get that ready. Now with these 3 cables, we like to, you can loom them, we'll tape them just a little bit, but really we're going to go ahead and just professionally prepare our wire here. Once we have this all connected, we can really get our sub box in place, and then all this wire is going to head towards the driver's side. Our RCA's remote turn on wire connected to the radio, and then our bass knob cable. It comes preloaded with a bass knob. That's where it plugs into. We'll find a nice place up there in the dash area to mount that. So let's go ahead and finish preparing these cables. Then we'll head to the car to start pulling them to their various locations. All our power, ground, and connections go through there. Now on this side, we split loomed most of it, actually. Our RCA's remote turn on wire and bass knob wire. Along the back side here, up underneath the carpet, came across down here, all the way down. We fished up and over, and it came out here. Now we have our RCA's and remote turn on wire kind of to the right side of the foot, and we have our bass knob wire. We're not looming it together at that point because we'll probably put our bass knob in this area. At this time, we need to pull these wires up into the dash cavity. So let's go ahead and jump inside here, pull the dash apart so we can make our final connections. All right, so we're here in the cab. We're ready to pull the radio out so we can make our final connections. Now we have a little panel tool. It's pretty easy to pop out this radio. And go ahead and just kind of get back behind this panel here from the top. It's held on with clips. There's going to be a harness here at the top to disconnect. Now we don't need to totally disconnect everything. We just need to pull the radio out temporarily so we can get everything connected. With the bezel down, it's going to be held in with 2 on each side, 9/32 or 7mm screws. All right, so we got our cables pulled in. Now we have a little extra here, so we'll zip tie the extra. Now on the back of our radio, we're gonna have some sort of remote turn on wire depending on the brand that's installed. Generally speaking, standard, it's blue with a white stripe. Can be another color depending on the brand of aftermarket radio that's currently installed. Now we're gonna connect our remote turn on to that of the radio. Now we use a little crimp cap. It's not a wire nut, it's a little crimp cap. We crimped on wire and wire. It's a perfect connection there. Subwoofer enclosure gets the full voltage output. We're gonna throw in a splitter. So basically it takes the one output, splits it into 2 for our left and our right. Tuck everything back into the dash. Go ahead and reinstall our screws. With the radio all back together, we went ahead and loomed our power wire that came up here. Now we made a little ABS plastic mount there. Essentially our fuse holder connects to it, and then this is just in the battery shroud. It's obviously not in the battery itself, just in the cover plastic, and it's nice and solid there. Got that all mounted up, and we use wire ferrules and heat shrink as we usually do on all these connections, and then it's a nice short run up to the positive post there on the battery. So at this point in time, we're done underneath the hood. All right, so everything's all back together. We got our bass knob mounted kind of about right there. And with everything cleaned up and good to go, we did our tuning, got everything set up for crossovers. At this point in time, we are done with this install. Now, if you have any questions on what we did here, go ahead and post a comment below. If you like any of the parts we use, link them in the description along with other helpful install videos for this generation F-150. Thanks again for watching. Hit the like button if you liked what you saw, and don't forget to subscribe and post great content on the channel all the time. We'll see you in the next video.